Britain is heading to the polls once again. There's a general election approaching, so I'm getting out of the office and on the road to find out what's happening at this volatile political time. I'll be travelling across the UK in this trusty old Morris Minor for the FT's 2017 election road trip. For our next stop, we're off to the northeast of England. This is Labour's heartland territory, where they don't just count the red votes, they wheelbarrow them in. It also happens to be where I grew up. I have the feeling that political alliances are shifting here because of Brexit, Jeremy Corbyn, the collapse of UKIP and Theresa May. So I'm here in Tyneside to find out whether people are really ready to abandon the party. Apart from the metropolis of Newcastle upon Tyne, most of the North East voted to leave the EU, but how much is that affecting people's voting intentions? Our first stop is Dominic's Cafe in Gateshead. The punters here are natural Labour supporters, but I'm interested to see how much love there still is for the party, in particular its leader.
I think from a principle point of view, you know, the guy's an honest, genuine person. I think some of his policies are very good. I think the redistribution of some wealth. However, I think as a leader, I'm not confident with him. And Bruce, what about you? What's your thought on the general election?
Well, I felt it's a bit difficult this time because I don't feel like any party properly represents me entirely in its own right. But I think on balance, I would probably end up plummeting for the Conservatives.
What do you think of Theresa May?
I like Theresa May. But I'm not sure about the Conservatives. I don't like the policies. But having said that, we need somebody to get through Brexit.
And Bronwyn, have you decided how you're going to vote?
I'm voting Tory because there's no way I would vote for Jeremy Corbyn, and I think I was a Remainer, but now Brexit's going to happen, we've just got to go with it.
So anti-Labour feeling is clearly stronger here than it is usually. I'm off to Middlesbrough South and East Cleveland, which Conservative strategists think is probably their best hope of winning a seat in the region.
The Labour Party has elected a leader in Mr Corbyn who simply doesn't represent or speak for the majority of voters here. We've got a huge fight on our hands. This is a seat which we haven't won for 25 years. We're going to have to earn the trust of every voter, so we don't take anything for granted. But if we are successful, it will be because there's a pull factor of the Prime Minister and a push factor of Jeremy Corbyn.
Oddly enough, someone else who isn't optimistic about Labour's chances is Tom Blenkinsop. He was the Labour MP for Middlesbrough South for the last 7 years, but has decided not to stand again in this election.
I know what the chief factor about that is.
But you think it's Mr Corbyn?
Yes. There are other factors.
What about Brexit? Is that a big issue here?
Yeah. However, I still think those voters, if they possibly voted UKIP last time and leave in the referendum, their propensity is to vote for Labour. However, the party has been very much, if you're not Labour, then we don't want to talk to you, we exclude you, rather than trying to find out why people aren't looking to Labour.
His scepticism about the party is reflected by most in his local pub.
I'm retired, but I was fortunate to work in the local steelworks for 42 years.
What do you think of Theresa May?
Not my first candidate, but if she can be strong personally for me on Brexit, then that will go a big way to my belief.
I've always voted Labour. I feel compelled to. I can't bring myself to vote for Tories. You know, I don't think they've ever done anything for this town.
What do you think of Mrs May?
I just think she's totally distant from the real people, especially around here.
Battling the negativity is Chi Onwurah, standing again for Labour up the road in Newcastle upon Tyne. Now, Tyneside is more natural territory for the party, and she's one of Mr Corbyn's front benchers, but she does acknowledge the party has challenges ahead.
What comes up on the doorstep? Brexit does come up, and yes, the leadership does come up as well. But what really comes up is about jobs, schools and the NHS. And people here remember what it was like in the 80s when the Tories were in power. And while we are losing some voters, there's also a lot of first-time voters who are saying, we can't go on like this, we need change.
So the North East is going to be intriguing to watch on election night. Psephologists say that Labour's core voters are abandoning them in its droves, and everything I've seen and heard here does confirm that. But will that translate into actual seat gains? Down on Teesside of Middlesbrough? Probably, but in Tyneside, less so. But even a dash of blue really will just show how much British politics is being shaken up.